to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Today, Dane Austin joins me. Dane founded his firm, Dane Austin Design, in 2009. It is a full-service interior design firm headquartered in Boston. He specializes in luxury residential interiors. His signature design process, he calls Rise and Thrive Experience, is a highly customized and customer-driven plan that delivers custom solutions for full-service turnkey projects. Now, that's the way it's described on his website. What I want you to understand and think about, when I read that, my brain went, what is Rise and Thrive Experience? And I clicked on it because he makes it a clickable link. And then I read it. And while I appreciate the value of it, and while I like the process of it and the way he explains it, honestly, because I see so many designers' websites and I know so many designers' processes, it didn't hit me as so very unique, right? But what hit me as so very unique was calling it something, was saying to his potential client that I have this process. And it's not only a process, it's a rise and thrive experience. And this is a level of marketing and talking to his potential client that I think is well worth taking notice of, okay? So maybe you take a look at his website later and you think about how you could think about and apply this to your business, okay? Now, the other thing that I liked when I searched through his website was I found that Dane is very much utilizing the packages feature from Mydoma Studio. He uses it to explain, quantify, and I'm sure to effortlessly sell his services to his clients. And he is one of the growing number of interior designers who are seeing the value and are building profit centers around creating packages. In fact, when I was in Las Vegas last month, I had the opportunity to speak to several interior designers who mentioned to me that they signed up for Mydoma Studio specifically because of the packages feature. All right. One even said to me, I actually have used for many years, well before I heard about Mydoma Studio, a different platform to run my business, but I now have signed up for Mydoma and I use it just for the packages. So she's keeping her business end where it's been for several years, but she's picking up and utilizing Mydoma for packages, all right? And what she said to me was, in my mind, it's no different than using different tech tools for different tasks. No different than if I use Outlook for email, but I use Acuity for scheduling appointments. These are all the things that I need to run an efficient business. I thought it was a pretty good idea, gotta say. Now, in my conversation with Dane today, we talk about how he describes finding himself as a person, as a business person, and as a designer, and that journey that he went through. And I thought it was valuable to hear this story because, you know, you could be in business 2 years, 5 years, or 20 years, and you might be questioning some of these ideals, right? We've had designers that after 10 years have rebranded. So this is not just a hashtag baby designer conversation, right? Now, the other thing is in the conversation, he shares how the journey started to crystallize for him through conversation with his web person. And through those conversations, he came up with what I always call his Fred Burns only, right? And also you'll find out why when you do go to Dane's website that you're seeing little ladybugs throughout the website. All right. Now, Dane is really a delightful giving man. I'm sure you're going to like having this chance to get to know him a bit. All right. Huge thanks to Article.com for sponsoring the show. Keep in mind, if you have not opened your trade account yet, please go to welldesigned.article.com. That's welldesigned.article.com. By using this link, you'll not only be on your way to sourcing and specifying the most beautiful mid-century furniture and accessories, you'll be letting Article know that you heard about them from my podcast. Okay? Go to welldesigned.article.com. Alrighty, let's meet Dane. Hi, Dane. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hi, Luann. I'm so excited to be on the show. Thank you so much for having me.
I've been looking forward to this, too, since I met you in Boston this past winter. I remember seeing you we didn't know each other yet, right? And I was on the stage, on the panel, and I just kept landing on your face in the audience. You're just such a warm, I don't know, inviting guy. And I just was like, just kept looking at you and just kept looking at each other and smiling. And then we got the chance to talk afterwards, right?
Yes, I think I was getting a little fanboy on you. But that's so sweet of you to say. I really appreciate it. It's giving me chills right now.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's so funny because when you are on stage like that, whether it's a panel discussion, you've done panel discussions. I know that you know this too. For me, I try and look around. I always look in people's eyes. I always try and, really see who's there and make a connection. But you actually stood out to me that day. I remember that thinking, wow, man, look at that. That's such a nice face over there. And he's just like, every time I landed on you, you just smiled. And I was like, oh, that's a safe place to go. So.
You can see me. I'm smiling right now. That's so nice. Yeah. I'm glad I could be the friendly face in the crowd.
Yeah. I mean, cool. Yeah. And by the way, for everybody else that was in Boston, it's not anybody else's face was less than. You just stood out to me is what it was. And I appreciated it. And it was fun that day for me. So, but since then I found out, my goodness, how talented you are and how accomplished you are. And I was like, whoa. So I'm just really excited to pick your business apart, Dane.
Well, I'm excited to share with you.
Yeah.
I've loved your show for quite some time, and I've taken away so much from it over the years. And I'm always telling other designers that they need to check you out, and you're just a wealth of information. So I appreciate what you do for the design community and how you sort of raise the bar for everybody across the board.
Oh, well, that's so nice. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, it's you know what it is? It's people like yourself willing to come on the show and pull back the curtain and tell all of us how you do what you do. And this is how we all get better, because we don't need every single idea that somebody, we don't need, 60 shows and do 60 ideas. We need those half a dozen ideas that you just say to yourself, whoa, that could make a difference in my business, right?
Seriously, even when I listen to a show that I think is going to have nothing to do with me or my business, there is always a golden nugget, always a takeaway, always some great idea. I'm like, oh, that's good. I'm going to use that.
It's funny. I feel the same way as I do the interviews. I'm often thinking, whoa, that's amazing. That little thing right there. It's like I say all the time, I want that aha moment. And there's every single person I really feel, I know for a fact, every single person that's been on the show has shared at minimum one moment where you could just say to yourself, okay, I like that idea. Even if, it's so funny because for me, I listen to other podcasts, right? And what's interesting is sometimes the actual concept or strategy that guest is sharing isn't always the one that I'm going to take back and do, but it will get me thinking in a different way on something I'm already working on that I can make it better, or I just see clarity through doing it, right? So it's not always the exact idea. It's what it creates in you, right?
Definitely. It opens you up to a different perspective and a different point of view. So
yeah, fun. So fun. Okay, so let's talk about your business here for a minute. So interestingly, we did meet in Boston back in February, and we did chat, and we did decide that we would do a podcast interview together. And what was funny is what I learned after the fact is that you shared with me that you were talking with Tanya at Mydoma Studio. And as the two of you were chatting, she said to you, you really should, call Luann and like get on Luann's show, right? And so tell us a little bit about what was happening in your conversation with you and Tanya at Mydoma Studio that you guys felt like, hey, let's see if somebody wants to hear this.
Well, we were just discussing how I got started and got into design and what sort of drives me. And she just thought it would be a good idea for other people in the industry to hear what I had to say about my journey, I guess. And the key to this, I think the overarching takeaway is just that everyone's journey is different and there is no straight path to becoming a successful interior designer. And there's so many different avenues that one can take, and this might be a second or third career for some people. Otherwise, people might know that they've wanted to do this their whole lives, or it's different for everyone. But just growing up and seeing all of the big names in the design industries in the top magazines, whether it be Architectural Digest or Elle Decor, Veranda, House Beautiful, Traditional Home, I started studying all those designers and seeing the way that they live and reading their books and just feeling that I was supposed to emulate that, to emulate this certain lifestyle, whether it's equestrian lifestyle and horseback riding or boating and yachting and, the country clubs and things like that. I thought that was who I was supposed to portray and who I was supposed to market to. And I don't think it was until I sort of figured out who is your ideal client that I just actually sat down and made a list and the bullet points of the demographic and the type of personality and the things that they like and the things they don't like, and just really went through and realized I just want to work with people like me. And that just being said, I guess it would be people who are laid back, easygoing, fun-loving, love to travel, enjoy spending as much time as they can with friends and family, and don't mind if the dogs are up on the sofa or running around the house. And, it's just having livable luxury was sort of the look and feel and the type of home I like to create, but the personalities that enjoy that as well. So I had the fancy car and the custom suits made and the like designer shoes, thinking I was supposed to portray this certain personality to market to that that other set, and so I always felt sort of outside of it, and I didn't feel like I was being my authentic self. And so that just took some time and experience. Everyone says find your voice and just be yourself. And it sounds so easy, but like I realized that what I was doing, I think it almost seemed a little forced, or just not quite exactly me. And to be more sort of open with who I am and where I came from, and the fact that I come from meager beginnings and kind of had an absent mother and a militant father, and my upbringing wasn't the same as some other of
yachting
those
set
fancy
of people.
designers I was seeing in the magazines. Yes. So
right. So the thing about that is that it takes time to come into your voice, I think, is what it is. It's some people are probably blessed and really come out into their 20s and 30s, possibly with some clarity. Actually, what's funny is I've never had this conversation with Sarah, the CEO of Mydoma Studio, but it just occurred to me as I was about to say, I guess there's some people that are in their 20s and 30s and have clarity on who they are. But I was about to follow it up with, but I highly doubt it. But, I have to say, I would bet you that Sarah is one of those people. I mean, I think I knew her 2.5 years before I realized that she was only 30 years old. And I was like, wait, so you were like 27 or 28 when I met? Like, that's insanity to me. Like, she's just always so focused and driven, always has presented herself so authentically. And the perfect combination of innovative, gutsy, but willing to learn and to listen, which is so rare in a younger person, right? Like that's really, that willing to learn and listen, sometimes coordinating with a gutsy, innovative personality. Usually that other two part, if you have the first two, sometimes the other two parts don't come until you're a little older, is all I'm saying in my observation. Anyway, so I just had that thought as we were talking. I was like, but back to you, back to your thing and your growth and your journey. So the thing is, Dane, there is something to be said for dressing the part, right? And so you are an interior designer. You're looking to, at this point, before you have your clarity, you want to do luxury design. You still do luxury design. That is what you still do. It's what you end up, the path that you created, and you sit very comfortably in that space of luxury design. But the difference and the disconnect I think you're describing is thinking in order to create a firm of that level that you had to do the trappings of the car and the suits and the shoes and look a certain way. And I would say to you, you really do look that way. And you're telling me you don't now? Because you were like the most well-dressed guy I've seen. You're gorgeous.
Wow, that's very kind. I definitely think it's important to dress the part. And, people want to know that they're hiring somebody of quality, and they want to hire the fabulous designer, but it's all about your attitude. And so when you're totally at ease in your skin and you can be free to be who you are and not feel that you have to hide your past or pretend that you came up a certain way. And I definitely enjoy dressing well because it makes me feel good, and then it definitely boosts my confidence. And I'm excited to get dressed for work every day. And I, no matter if I'm out on a coffee run or walking my dog, I still want to look and feel my best. So I definitely think that there's a place for that. But I think that I was just somewhat I guess a little intimidated when I was younger by thinking that I had to project a certain image. And you definitely need to project an image of success and that you're coming from a place of authority, as a designer, but you should also be warm and friendly and approachable and open. I think that just having a really positive attitude in general makes all the difference in the world. So,
but I'm hearing the difference. What you're saying is that the clothing is one thing, and to your point, I hear you. If you're going to swim in a luxury lane, you have to be a little bit almost aspirational for your client or on par with your client, right? So, and by the way, and even that, it just has to be you. You are a person who, like you said, enjoys being well dressed. And so there's, you could be somebody that has flip flops and shorts on and still work with the luxury client. I know that there's a space and time for that. But the point is, your true self, if I'm hearing you right, Dane, your true self actually likes nice clothing, likes to feel great in it, wants to look put together and be put together. But the difference and the little learning lesson that you had in there was that the rest of you is really you too, that you're not getting dressed and then pretending that you grew up with a silver spoon or that you had this sort of background. It's like, my background is my real background and I own it, and it's fine because it's me, and it's everything that created who I am. We're on to where your point is going, right?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I just used to feel that and it just comes with experience, but I used to feel that I didn't know how to express that part of my past, or I felt that it was necessary to not bring it up, or,
what if somebody finds out and thinks that now I shouldn't be their designer because
right.
I didn't grow up rich like they did, right?
Right. And, it's funny because when I look at some of my favorite designers in the industry, it's those who sort of made a name for themselves on their own through hard work and determination and a lot of gumption.
Yeah.
So
how about, do you remember the David Phoenix interview? Did you
I don't
hear?
recall.
Oh, you have to
Hold on.
listen to that interview. David Phoenix, he's got the signature collection with Cravat. He's got a line of fabrics with Cravat ink. And at one point during the interview, he says, well, when I was 17, I sort of picked up and left the East Coast and went to live in California on my own. And I was like, what? Like, it was crazy. And he went in and told us a little bit about the story. And here he is. He's David Phoenix. He's an amazing top level, iconic luxury designer. And to your point, that there is no one way to get to any profession, let alone the interior design profession. And your path and your journey and your past is yours. It is what it is. And you just need to grow into your own skin and own it, right?
Right. So I love the notion, and it seems to be true, that the career of a designer blossoms late. And so it takes a lot of hard work through the years and building your portfolio and slowly building your business and building your brand, building your client base, your network of referral partners and friends and family, sending people your way. And there's no silver bullet in this industry. You have to do a little bit of everything. There is no straight shot to the top. It's a lot of a lot of networking, a lot of marketing, and just putting yourself out there and getting involved with the community. And I think just sort of making your way through this industry with an open mind and an open heart, and to not compare yourself to everyone else out there, and to think of each other more so as collaborators rather than competition.
Definitely.
I think a lot of us are so closed off and afraid to talk about our trade secrets and our pricing and the way that we run the project. And what I realize is, if you continue to meet other designers in your area and to go to networking events and seminars and lectures and weekend retreats, the more and more people you meet and share your story and express your background and learn about others' differences or similarities, and the more you can connect. Life is all about the human connection in the end. Like, that is what matters most. We all thrive when we are able to connect with each other, and we all just need love, support, encouragement, and acceptance in this life in order to thrive. And rather than closing yourself off or thinking that you need to be better than someone, or thinking someone else is better than you, comparing yourself, we're all in this together, this game of life, and it's so much better to share our knowledge and see how we can help each other be better and to grow, than to be closed off and sort of, keeping parts of yourself off the table or away from people. Yeah. Even as simple as the fact that I think, actually, listening to one of your podcasts a while back, there was a woman on who had her whole thing is pink, and it was like her brand, and she always shows up with a pink tape measure and pink accessories, and it was a kitschy sort of fun thing that she's doing, but it definitely gets her noticed and makes people remember her.
Right.
And I was talking to a PR marketing person a while back, and I was like discussing the idea of having trouble knowing how to convey like my aesthetic. And simply put, it's all about color. And I think the difficulty sometimes for me is that I can't always convey an exact aesthetic, because the client for me is always the muse, and the client inspires the space. So when you look through my portfolio, you never see a project that looks the same. I don't come at it with a cookie cutter look. I come at it with the client's sort of taste in mind. So I think about it as my spin on the client's taste, or your taste through my perspective or through my lens. Mm-hmm. And we were talking. She asked, what's the thread that runs through all your projects? And I said, well, color. I mean, it's I think a bold and daring use of color, like interesting mix of of patterns and the different color combinations, maybe unexpected color combinations. And she said, well, that's it. It's color. How do you work that in? And she said, maybe on your Instagram. And I said, well, I'm a colorful life. And she's like, well, that's your tagline, a colorful life right there. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's right in front of me the whole time.
Right.
If you look at my logo in the website and my brand and everything that I'm all about, it's always through color. And then, people, that's what they always comment. Whenever I ask a client, what is it about us that made you pick up the phone? Why did you call me? I'm sure there are half a dozen other designers in the area that would do just as great a job. So I'm just curious what it is that made you pick up the phone. And they always say, I love your use of color. I love the thoughtful way you use color, or you can tell that you really listen to your clients. And, for those who are scared of using color, I definitely ease them into it and introduce it in a smooth way. But another aspect of that is just the fact that I have a tattoo, and it's the only tattoo I have on my body. It's on my foot, and it's a tiny little ladybug, which is very sentimental because I was born on a farm, and we would ride our bikes through the cornfields and come out covered in ladybugs. And so, like, all my siblings, we've always talked about the idea of getting coordinating ladybug tattoos wherever they want on their body, and there's one dot for each of my siblings, and it was just this little side of me that I thought was this quirk, and I was like, I don't know that I want to share with clients that I have a tattoo or my love of ladybugs, because some people don't like bugs, and is that going to be strange? But then after working with my web person and talking through all this and talking about color and being the authentic self, like now the ladybug is actually my the icon on the tab
that's nice.
in the bar, and there's one at the bottom of each page, and it has made its way into some of our branding materials, and nobody really asks about it, but
right.
I'm associated with the ladybug and color, and
well, this is all good stuff right here, because this is the type of thing that we actually, we have this conversation on the show a lot. And I just had this conversation in a one-on-one coaching call just yesterday, where so often the designer will say, I don't know what my thing is. I don't have a thing. I design for everybody's taste. I'm not just the white designer, or I'm just not the gray designer, or whatever it is. I'm not just the beach designer. I'll do whatever somebody wants. So I don't really have a thing. But that's what we're always trying to help the designers, whether we're doing it at live events or we're doing it in coaching or whatever it is. It's like, you do have a thing. You just need to have some questions to yourself to ask you and to help you uncover it. And it's how I feel. I'm a broken record with Nicole Heimer and from Curio Electro, where she does defining your brand. And she literally has this whole exercise, and it's the chapter in our new book where she, just the way your PR agent was like, well, what do you think this is a thread? What do you think? What do your clients say about you? This is the way. So if you're a designer out there listening and you're saying to yourself, yeah, I can I just have, Dane's thing? Can I just be colorful life too? Or can I like, tarantulas, maybe tarantulas are my thing, right? It's like, the point is that it doesn't have to be, your thing isn't always this big, huge idea, but it's always so true to you. That's the thing. And so I love that you identified that color is the thread through your projects, and that you can do all different styles and aesthetics. But for the most part, you are going to introduce color into your design, and therefore the clients that are attracted to color will be attracted to you. And here's the thing, just off the top of my head, and I'm sure that I'm going to miss people right now, but off the top of my head, I'm thinking about Courtney McLeod, Don Ricardo from Design, Mr. Incredible, Design Incredible, and Rachel Moriarty. All of these are designers that lead with the conversation that they embrace color. So that's three completely separate designers from you, Dane. three completely different types of style from each other and from you. And so it's not like, oh, I can't do color because, it's already been picked. The point is, if color is your thing, it's your thing. That's it. It's okay. You don't need another thing because it's color is somebody else's thing, because the way that you do color, Dane, is going to be different the way Courtney or Don or Rachel do color. And so I hope that you're listening and hearing out there that little nuance. And then, of course, to bring Ladybug into it is it's not like, hey, hugeness. It's just if somebody were to notice it and ask you, now there's a story that you can start to tell. And there's how the story starts to weave into your upbringing. And who knows what connection that makes. You're living in a metropolitan city, Boston. How many other people that you might run across that also grew up on farms from other parts of the country? And there's an instant connection. And this is what our marketing is supposed to do. It's supposed to attract to us, like Dane said, like you said in the beginning, Dane, I want to work with people like me and that like the things that I like. I like color. I came from a farm, a ladybug. I mean, it's so clear when it's hindsight, right? So for you, it's hindsight now. It was a hindsight exercise with your PR rep,
true.
right? And so really, Dane, the advice too is whether it's a designer that's in business 15 years or 15 minutes, if you haven't taken the time, like Nicole Heimer says, to get to know your brand, she says, grab a glass of wine and start to fill out the questionnaire. You know what I'm saying? Because this is how you arrive at it. And what happens, tell us, when you're there, Dane, the confidence soars, right? You're just, now this is who I am and this is how I do it and this is what I do, right?
Right. You definitely just have to speak from a place of authority, and clients want to know that they can trust what you're saying and that you have total confidence and you say things with impact.
Right. And when you are a designer who embraces color and you introduce it to all of your projects, then you are by default a designer who has confidence in using color. I mean, it's just one goes with the other, right?
Yes, I definitely think it takes sometimes a little bit of time for you to gain your client's trust. But once you get them through that first look presentation or get them over the hurdle, they're far more open-minded. I do what I call planting the seed. So the wow, like, gosh, in this industry, when it all is said and done, after all of our hard work and blood and sweat and tears, the only thing you have left is an image of your work. And so it's so important to invest in the very best possible images you can, because that is how you sell and market yourself. So I always love the aspect of having a wow in a room, because I want a wow to be conveyed in the photographs. And that might be an overscaled vine and leaf patterned wallpaper, or a bold aubergine on a pair of draperies, or this really overscaled graphic light fixture, or painting the ceiling a high gloss blue. Just something that offers a wow moment when you look at that image, and it's sort of the thing that catches your attention. So I always try to implement and plant the seed up front and sort of introduce what would be the wow moment that I know they're going to be probably a little scared of. Okay. And it usually has to do with color.
Okay.
or a bold, colorful pattern of some kind. But I will introduce that up front and say, this is what I'm thinking. I'm telling you now because I explain to them the psychology behind it. I say I'm planting the seed. I want to put this out there right now because I want it to ruminate with you for as long as possible, so that as we make our way through the rest of the project and we get done and you love everything, I'm going to come back to this piece and say, remember that wall covering that I talked about doing in the beginning? How do you feel about doing it now? And they always say yes. It's always the thing that they sort of dig their heels in for the most, but they always love it the most in the end. And I think one of my favorite things to hear is, I never would have picked it, but I absolutely love it.
Right.
And it's that wow moment then when guests come over that's the thing they pick up on, and then that becomes the piece that the client hears the most compliments about.
That's really
every time.
That's such great practical advice, because I mean, I don't often talk about the pretty in the project, okay? And so, but the reality is this is the pretty in the project, but this is a terrific business lesson here, is that you, as a skilled interior designer, you have long come to understand that the room can be beautiful, or it can have a wow factor. And that is the skill set of you guys as designers. Honest to God, if I had a nickel for every time I walked into a project that we did for an interior designer and I thought to myself, are they out of their mind with that thing? Like that they're rolling in right now, or that's insane. But then, to the point of all the designers that insist on only a reveal install, when it's all in the room, all in context, that crazy thing, or that crazy drapery pattern, or that wallpaper, or that light fixture is the wow item. And so I love, from the business perspective and from the success of the project's perspective, that you as the professional, you as the experienced designer, understand that a beautiful room can be elevated to the wow factor with a very striking, important element, whatever it is. And you also, in your experience, know that that is probably an item that most clients, no matter how adventurous, are going to have pause and say, I don't know, Dane. I mean, seriously, with this tiger lamp here with the claws coming outside. I mean, like, I don't know about this, right? And so, but the thing is, what I love is the business expertise in there, that you know where you want to go. You know that it's a sometimes a difficult journey for the client to get on board with that. So you've consciously thought about how you do this, and you do it by setting them up in the beginning and explaining. You probably, I'm not sure how you can, this is a la, 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 and it's okay, and I'm not shoving it down your throat right now, but we're going to revisit this, and just trust me and be open-minded through this process with me. And, and I'm sure you also now add to part of your conversation, like you just did with us. And ultimately, every client I've had to a one has ended up saying, this was the one that I was the most afraid of, but this is my most favorite piece in the room. So right. To share that with every future client, potential client, is powerful, right? Because we all think to ourselves, oh, all right. Well, and also too, I'm sure if you really had, you're so well respected now and so successful that I'm sure that people go along with you, right? But thinking about somebody who's really still earning their chops and really still trying to stand in their confidence, it's another easy exercise to get them along is to go and look at the portfolio and say, okay, so let's just look at my portfolio. What in this room attracts you? And probably every single time it's that crazy element that that wow element that you've introduced, even when it's not their room and they're looking at your portfolio, right?
Right. So I actually use my portfolio for presentations when I'm meeting with a client for the first time and our initial in-home design consultation. I walk through the portfolio and ask them, what is it about these images that drew you? And a lot of people will realize and recognize that although it's not their taste necessarily, a particular project here or there, they understand that I was listening to the client.
Right.
Because every project in the portfolio is different, because every client is different with a different set of needs and a different set of wants and wishes and the lifestyle that they envision for themselves. So I think it's so interesting to take all of the information that a potential client gives to you and all of their hopes and dreams and aspirations for the way they want to live in their home, and then to deliver that beyond the level of expectation and beyond their imagination. Like that's what I think is so rewarding about all this, is like to offer them something that they couldn't have fully imagined on their own.
Oh, right.
And so I walk through the portfolio and we talk about the images, and I explain the different aspects of something a client wasn't quite sure of, and the way that they didn't see the big picture, but now how everything fits together because this color is repeated, 3 times throughout the space, and then it's referenced again in the tape trim on the window treatment in the dining room. And, like I explain how it all gets pulled together so they see that it feels very cohesive and very thoughtfully laid out.
Right. It's intentional. It's not an accident. I just didn't throw all this stuff in the room and it all worked out fine.
Right. I went to an install yesterday.
I knew where I was going.
I went to an install yesterday. We had some window treatments going in, some light fixtures. We had a bookshelf being finally finished off that was built into the space. And my colleague was just like, "Oh my gosh, these drapes look so good in the space. I can't believe how well it coordinates." And it's just like, well, it's not by accident.
Isn't that a coincidence? Those custom-made draperies just designed themselves and walked right into the perfect project. That's funny. So I have a question that I want to pick apart a little bit with you. You mentioned to me before we started the show that your workflow is, for the most part, your ideal workflow is that you have 3 projects that are in the beginning phases, 3 projects that are in the middle phases, 3 projects that are in the wrap-up phase, and 3 projects in the pipeline. And so that just seems so perfect to me. I just love that. So, but the thing is, Dane, when, like, say at this moment in time, right now, you actually have exactly 3 in each of these things. Because I'm sure sometimes you've got 2 in one of the phases or blah, 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 right? But let's say that your comfortable max is 3 in each of these phases. How and what do you do if you're offered an opportunity that you really like, you think it's an awesome opportunity, but you know that it's large enough that if you add it wherever they want it to go, so maybe, because sometimes a client might come to you with an awesome opportunity and want to start now, but at your level and the type of projects that you're doing and the expanse of the projects that you're doing, it wouldn't surprise me that you also often meet with clients who might meet with you in June or July and say, we're getting to know you now, but we want to start in, say, October, right? So whatever the case is, whenever somebody's project is ready to start, if you see that it really will pressure or stress your team, do you maneuver them and say, I want to do this project, but I can't start in September, I need to start it in November, or, how do you handle that, Dane?
Well, it sounds so perfectly wrapped up in a bow, the way,
yes.
that, doing 3 in the middle, 3 in the beginning, and 3 in the end, and 3 in the pipeline. But it is never quite that
Always
way.
Always that way. Okay.
It definitely ebbs and flows. And I think even trying to maintain that number of projects can be difficult if it was a fully, loaded pipeline in that sense. But I actually do have a client that I just met with a couple weeks ago who was very gung-ho about moving forward together, and I let her know that we were just starting with a really big project and that we are saving space for her in our calendar for scheduling to be able to work on her project, but that we would have to know within a couple weeks. And a couple weeks goes by, and we've now had a few more calls, and we have a few more people on the calendar, and interested in doing the initial consultation for us to, meet and decide if we want to take those projects. But I let her know that we had three people who are ready to fill her space if she's not ready to move forward. And I love this woman so much. She's such a great just a great lady, and I love her husband, and we had a really wonderful interview leading up to the in-home design consultation, and we had a great consultation itself, and they're gung-ho about working together, but she understands that I'm not necessarily I can't hold the space for her. So I talked to her just yesterday, and she said it's fine, and we can put off starting her project until the fall.
Okay.
So she's, people who want to work with us are understanding of the fact that we have to maintain our systems and processes, because I don't want to overextend what we're able to do for everybody. And there was a time where I would take, every $20,000, $30,000 room that came my way, and I was doing $20,000 projects or $30,000 projects, in a year. And I'm just like, so overwhelmed with how much work I was doing, and I realized, okay, I could do $600,000 projects and be fine, and then work up to the fact where I'm doing maybe 3 or 4 $500,000 projects. And so we generally will take on a really big budget project, and then we have one mid-range, and then we'll have something under $100,000. And I like that ebb and flow. And sometimes the more rewarding projects can sometimes be a more limited budget, because you get a lot. You have to be a lot more creative and come up with
not
more
as easy to just pick all the pretty things. Sometimes you have to hunt for the things they can afford, right?
It's so true. There's one time that we had a project that was a very large budget, several hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we did all custom pieces, beautiful custom window treatments with Schumacher fabrics, and most of the furniture was custom, and Baker, and just really high-end, beautiful brands. And it was a large budget, but it also limited. I think we were limited with the creativity that we were allowed to infuse into it, and we weren't sort of pressed to come up with as much of an innovative sort of design solution in different aspects, because it was all affordable to them. So,
right, because they could have whatever they wanted, so you weren't pushed beyond, like, how are we going to make something outstanding? At, like, everything was just like, I'll take 2 of those, darling, right?
Yeah, right. So it's interesting, because I'm having I had a little difficulty at the time to get that project published, because it's very well done and very pretty and very high end, but I think to some magazine editors, it doesn't have that wow creative edge to it.
Because this particular client's sensibility is just more classic, more straightforward, more reserved. It's what they love. That's your point. You'll design what they love, right?
It's true. That's exactly right.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Even in the areas where we might be pushing them to do something that's a little more adventurous, she's more reserved and more classic and like something that's more refined.
Right? It's
totally.
Right? It's it. She wants to come in and smile, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
She just wanted us to be super low maintenance and very comfortable and traditional, and nothing that's too in your face or
But timeless. She really is. It's just an aesthetic that appeals to her, and it's great. I mean, because you need to do that. You need to honor your client in the way they want. And to your point, it's not necessarily going to be as amazing and high budget and quality and exceptional as everything is. It's not magazine worthy in the sense that the magazines want that same, like you described, that wow picture, right? That wow factor of that's unexpected. So that's different. That's interesting. So the thing is, but the initial question centered around, and I just wanted to call out that, you can't be afraid to look at a client and say, A, here's your slot, I can start you here, and then B, when they don't call and fill it in, you call them and say, I've got other people interested in this slot. I definitely want to work with you, but it's a take it or a leave it, or a take it and reschedule later. Because to your point, when you're younger, or not even younger. I always say younger, and I just mean newer entrepreneur, a newer business owner in design. You're more inclined to take everything, and you do need to do that to some extent when you're starting out, right, Dane? You do need to just understand that work. But as your design aesthetic develops and you learn to edit what you're designing, and you learn to really develop your eye to what stays and what goes, it's the same as when you develop your business acumen, right? You need to be able to say, this can go. This project I don't have to say yes to, and if I do, I must put it off until September, and I don't need 40 projects at 20,000. I can have 10 projects at 100,000. And, but you grow into that, just like you grow into your voice, like you grow into your style, you grow into building your firm and editing your clients, because it is a journey. It is a process, and it is a journey, right, Dane?
Well, I think it's always really important to have like a business coach and education in your career. And I've always had a business coach who I would follow, or I even consider you a business coach in some sense, because I'm listening to your podcast. I'm learning from you all the time. I'm following along and reading your books, and I followed different people over time. And it's not always necessarily focused on interior design either,
Right.
but it's really important to continue to educate yourself throughout your life and in business and in the business of design, because we're not really taught that in school. But one of the keys that I picked up was that you shouldn't take a project just because you need the money.
Right.
And don't take a project that isn't the ideal client just because you need the money. And in the moment, you're going to snap to it and say, well, I need this $20,000 project, or I need this $30,000 project, or this $5,000 project, or whatever it is that you're working on, because you need the money. But it will end up costing you so much more time in the end doing something that you don't really love, that you're not necessarily going to get photographs from in the end. And working with somebody who maybe not be the most ideal client is not going to lead to raving reviews, because you don't necessarily have the best relationship, or maybe they're not great at communicating, And so I think you shouldn't necessarily take every project that comes your way, even in the beginning, but you might not realize it until after it happens.
Right. It's a learning process.
You shouldn't have taken it. And you will learn in the process. But you'll just learn to trust your gut and to know, to follow and realize when there are red flags, and when you recognize that you may have repeated a same mistake a couple times, and like, wait a second, this feels strangely
universe.
familiar.
Yes. Okay, now you have my attention, universe. Thank you.
Yes.
Well, I've said it on the show before. I 110% believe that the universe keeps putting the same problem or challenge or hardship in your path until you recognize and learn from it. And because it's just like, oh, okay, sweetie, you weren't paying attention last time. Let's throw it at you again. Okay, good. Now, how'd you handle it this time? Nope, still hard head. Great, here it comes, fastball, right at you again. and
Totally.
then it's like, all right, got it, Uncle, I got it. All right, let me make a change. But it's funny because Nate Berkus said the same thing on the interview he did on the show. He said the same thing. You have to look for, understand and be able to say no when you know it's not a right project. And so, there is this dance of, I think when I say work as much as you can or work on as many projects as you can, I should start, to your point, Dane, develop the pattern of ending the sentence with the right projects, right? The ones that you don't, because to your point, you could be earlier in your career and you could work on $20,000 projects. They all could be the right client and the right project. So it's possible. And now you have no desire to do $20,000 projects. You've got it, like you said, your tier where you can manage the over $500,000, the under $500,000, and then maybe a couple under $100K that you filter in order to keep, I'm sure, the cash flow moving and so forth, right? And also maybe they're just special clients that you are doing a refresh for something or something like that. But the point is that we are going to typically tend to take more quantity over dollar volume as we build our business out. But that doesn't mean that we ignore the gut voice and the red flag. We just say no to that one because another one will come behind it. So I have to start to learn to qualify that statement by including of your right project and not of, and it is when you're young. You don't necessarily know if it's going to be a right project, but you do get the gut check when you think the match isn't right, whether it's the project itself or it's the clients or whatever. We all hear the voice. I know we all hear the voice. Mm-hmm. We hear it. It's when we ignore it. And to your point, we tend to ignore it more often when we're young until we're just like, okay, seriously. This is never working out for me. Why do I keep doing it? So, but it's awesome, Dane. I just love it. I just think it's so terrific, the way you shared with us the importance of really finding your voice within your journey and being able to express all sides of who you are and what you do, and how in doing that, it really does call out to the people who are, to your, in your words, like you, and that are happy and good to work with, right?
Right. Yeah. So I remember wondering why a little while back I would say, the phone doesn't ring as much as I wish that it would, or I don't get as many inquiries as I want. Is my work too eccentric, or is it too eclectic, or is there too much color? And I was just talking over it with a friend, and they said, no, you keep doing exactly what you're doing, because you are going to attract the clients that love that verve,
right,
the verve that they see within your projects. And the more you create a buzz around that aesthetic and doing things through that lens, like those are the types of people you're going to attract. And so it just took more patience and time to sort of pull more projects together and just keep doing me.
Right.
I think of myself as an artist first, and interior design happens to be my medium, and the client is my muse. So I'm
nice.
creating a space based on their personality and their taste through my filter and my lens, and I share it with the world by having it photographed and published. So I think a great piece of advice another designer gave me years ago was, and you definitely have to work up to this in your career, and when she said it, I was like, well, that's crazy. I can't do that. But she said, never take a project that you can't get published. And, you might have to work up to the fact that you only want to take projects where you can do the entire room. And then once you get to that point, you'll work up to only taking projects that you can do all of the common spaces. And then you'll work up to being able to do the entire house, and eventually work up to building houses and designing houses. It's such a journey in your career. But again, as they say, like the career of a designer blossoms late. So
it also does require all of those layers and layers and layers of experiences. Yes. I have had the occasion, I'm sure you've heard the shows with like Sarah Magnus and Andrew Savolsky, and I'm trying to think of some others. And my goodness, there's 450 of you guys now. It's getting harder and harder to keep the names in my head. But there are people that and Carrier and Co., that group, that husband and wife couple, that do sort of open their firm right to that super high luxury level. But in my experience, through the interviews only, I am not the world's authority on interior designers and their businesses, but in the experience of my interviews, every person that I've interviewed that opened their doors at that super high luxury, full project, soup to nuts, don't talk to me about budget because the budget is crazy, and if you have to ask it, you don't have it, right? Has always cut their teeth at the iconic interior design firms. They have spent sometimes 10 years, if not, at least 5, if not 10, and sometimes longer, at the Bunny Williams of the world, at the Benjamin Ortiz Noriegas, at, the Vincent Wolf's firms. They've cut their teeth at those level firms. And then, yes, you can, but understand something. Even though they're a brand new design entrepreneur, they have spent 10 or 12 or 15 years as a designer. So it's not the same as opening your own firm after spending 2 years working for somebody or 3. You still have to put in, the only difference is you're putting your apprentice in on your dollar, on your back, right? Where they stood there at the knee of these iconic designers and learned how to run a firm and how to interact with the luxury clientele and to understand the expectations and what the deliverables are at that level. So either way, it does take, whether it's 10, 15 years working for somebody else or 10 or 15 years working for yourself, you can do it, but you do have to pay attention to the lessons along the way, right, Dane?
Right. They definitely paid their dues in the process.
That's right. That's right. You pay them one way or another because, we just don't get hatched out as, Derek Jeter. Even Derek Jeter started at T-ball. Let's be serious. Does anybody even know who Derek Jeter is anymore, Dane? I mean, how old am I? Right? I have to find out who's on the Yankees now. I don't even know.
I think they're in London right now playing.
Are they? See, Derek Jeter, Joe Torre, Jorge Posada. These are my Yankees.
It's funny.
Chuck a Knobloch. Oh, gosh. Anyway, well, I thank you so much, Dane. I am coming back to Boston, by the way. Caddy just got confirmed just this week, October 3rd. I will be at the Boston Design Center at the Kravet showroom. So, I will see you there, hopefully. Put it on your calendar. I'd love to see you that day. And anybody else that's in the Boston area, please make sure to visit with us at the Kravet showroom on October 3rd, 2019. Okay?
Sounds great. I look forward to it.
Me too. Thanks, Dane.
Thank you so much.
You know me. As I said at the top of the show, and I've said in many other shows, I always read the websites of my guests before I either invite them to be on the show or I accept their request to be on the show. The other thing is, though, I always reread them after I've interviewed them. Why do you think that is? Well, because I like to go and find out after speaking with them if the website reflects the person I met. Okay, so I would love for you to now, after listening to this episode with Dane, you go to his website and see what you think. Here's what hit me after interviewing Dane, this line. Our Boston interior design team is driven by our core values of compassion, generosity, and trust. Don't these adjectives line up exactly with the man you met today? I know they do, right? So here's the thing. This is the magic, all right? The magic is that, yes, he has these words on his website because they truly reflect him. But when I read them before I meet Dane, it's like, oh, that's a sweet sentiment. I like that. But when I read them after I meet him, I know how authentically true they are. And that's what's important. And that's what the Fred Burns only talks about. They don't have to be compassion, generosity, and trust. They could, all three, describe you right now. They could be the same major components of your personality and the way you run your business. Or one of them could be, or two of them could be. It doesn't matter that they're somebody else's. It matters if they're true for you. And the thing is, what we always talk about in making your website and writing your copy and creating your brand identity, it's if you say something in your website and it really isn't you, okay, when I first read it, I might not know it's you. I might think it sounds great. I might love what it says to me. But if I meet you and I speak to you and it doesn't line up, now the value is gone. Now I don't care that you say you're compassionate and generous and you're a trustworthy person. If I don't get that to your core when I meet you, now it's empty words. But this is what I love, because don't you agree that even in a 1-hour interview with Dane, that you can believe that these are true adjectives for him: compassion, generosity, and trust. So this is what you're striving for. It doesn't matter what they are. It matters that it's you. Okay? Because that's the other reason why it doesn't matter what they are, it matters what they're you, is because when I go back and I reread his website and now those words stuck out to me, it made me happy. So it's the same as if I read your website, I'm a potential client, I notice those words, maybe I don't, but when I have that 15, 20, 30-minute discovery call with you, I'm going to go back and look at your website again. That potential client is going to go back. And if now the words that are on the website reinforce the conversation I had, I just instantly like you more. That's what happens, okay? All right, now, can you relate to his journey and understanding it's not necessary to second guess who you are, where you come from, and how you are alike or different from your ideal client in background, right? I mean, have you ever felt like he once did, that luxury clients would expect you to have the same background and experiences that they had in order for them to hire you as a designer? Now, if the answer is yes, I hope you do know, and you have heard now, that it does not need to be a criteria. It might be that you have that background, and yay for you, right? But it doesn't need to be. Your prospective client is less interested, believe me, way less interested in where you come from than where you are now. They want to know you are a confident business person. They want to know that you're a talented designer and that they are in capable hands. That's what matters to them, okay? So when you imagine Dane before he really came into it, he was probably, you think he described, he was tentative about it. He felt unsure. And so he's sitting there feeling unsure based on things in his upbringing, and it's just coming across as lack of confidence. Meanwhile, he's the same interior designer with those same killer design talents, but there's a conveying of lack of confidence. And so that's what his lesson is. His lesson is be you. It's okay. Whoever you are, it created the person you are at this moment. And combine that with your design talents and go confidently into your interactions with your prospective clients and your current clients, okay? And I'm just going to add this other little part of this is like the obvious. My brain always goes to the logic part of it, right? You're looking at a luxury client and you're looking at their $5 million home or apartment, and you're looking at their, BMWs in the driveway, and they're talking about their second home in the mountains or the lake or the beach. I mean, do you have any idea what their background is? Do you have any idea? Were they self-made? Did they hit the lottery? Did their parents give them the money? Would they come from a silver spoon? The point is it's not relevant. It's not relevant, right? It's what's relevant is confidence. Okay, that's what's relevant. All right. Now, the secret is you. I mean, that's really, I'm just going to say, the secret is you, and it's all between your ears, and it's how you show up and how you process your own thoughts, okay? It is up to you to do as Dane did, to step into your confidence and be the designer and the business person that you know you can be. All right. Now, I'm going to tell you, if you are interested in more conversation about this particular topic, in High Point this October, on Sunday the 20th, I am going to lead a panel discussion with 3 really dynamic women. Sandra Funk, House of Funk, Lori Paranjape from Mrs. Paranjape, and Taylor Spellman. And the interesting thing is when I came up with this particular panel of women, I'm going to be flat out, tell you the truth, how I came up with it. I just wanted all 3 of these women on stage. That's the point. These are women that I know. I know that they're each dynamic. I know that they're each powerful. I know that they're each smart. And I literally sat there and I said, what is the common denominator? What am I going to make the topic of this panel discussion about in order to put them all on the same stage? They have completely different business models. Taylor Spellman is a luxury stager, in addition to being an interior designer, but her big claim to fame is as a stager. And Lori and Sandra both have luxury design firms, but completely different ones. And so I thought, what am I going to do? And it hit me. Each of these women are confident, and everything that they do and they create in their interactions with their clients, in their interactions with their employees, in their interactions with their extended vendor team stems from the confidence that they have in themselves as women, business owners, and designers. And that's the common denominator. So if you're interested in more conversation about that, please join me in High Point on Sunday at 2:00. This panel is generously sponsored by Mydoma Studio and Surya, which is the location of the panel at Surya. Okay? Now, before I go, take a moment to look at Dane's website. As I said, there's lots to learn and compare. So it's DaneAustinDesign.com. Look at his portfolio, his use of color that he described, and how he employs his wow factor in each of his rooms, and then take a look at those packages. Click in and out. See how he outlines what a client can expect with each service. Getting clear at this level is so beneficial for both you and the client. And you'll note there too that Dane is available to consult with you too if you like. He offers strategy sessions. How's that for English? Strategy sessions to you, the designer, if you want to pick his brain and learn from his experience in the interior design industry. All right, I have one more thing, a big, huge shout out and a thank you to Deli Yacker, who was one of the designers who left a review for my new book on Amazon. Deli wrote, I really enjoyed this book. Luann's compiled tons of relevant information from all these great business experts in the interior design field. It is easy to read, easy to comprehend, and to implement ideas for scaling an interior design business. I listen to Luann's podcast every week, and this book just complements all the amazing knowledge she shares. And Deli says, I love it a lot. Well, Deli, I love it, and I love it a lot too. And I thank you, and I promise you, my co-authors and I appreciate the time that you took to share your thoughts and write a review. And of course, a big shout out to you, Deli. I look forward to seeing you again at Window Works this fall. All right. Now, if you have not gotten the book yet, you can do that at luannynigara.com/book2. All right. And if you do have it and you've been reading it over the summer, I know many of you have been sharing pictures on Instagram and Facebook with me. I'd love it if you'd take a moment to review it for all of us too. All right. Lastly, Boston peeps, I'm going to be at Kravet October 3rd, where I will be chatting with the amazing Jan Showers about her long and accomplished career and her many collaborations with Kravet. Please join us. I'd love to meet you in person. Please introduce yourself to me. Okay. Have you figured out what are you going to do today to improve your business? One thing, one action. One thing, one action to make your business more profitable. All right? Decide to be excellent, my friend. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of Window Works, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at luannynigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.